Hey, Adam.
Yeah.
Follow my voice. I'm leading you.
Unbelievable. I'm Adam Maness,
And I'm Peter Barton.
and you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Daily jazz advice coming at you.
Don't make me play your games, man. What are you talking about?
Hey, I'm tying into the subject today.
Hey, this episode of the You'll Hear It podcast is sponsored by the Oxford American. You can go to oxfordamerican.org/YHI for some really, really great deals. It's amazing, this partnership we've had with the Oxford American. So many great articles. Great article, in-depth story on John Coltrane, his connection to his birthplace of North Carolina. Amazing to visit, the churches where he first learned music, and incredible writing as always.
Yeah, and I was, they sent us over some back issues, and I was just reading that article. It was the music issue from a few years ago. They always concentrate on their annual music issue for a different geographic area, state, or region of the South.
Yeah.
And it was Georgia, and it was a great article about James Brown, and I was just looking to see if that was available on here, but that would be a good one for folks to check out as well.
Yeah.
But everything on there.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
all
I
good.
started that, but I know what you're talking about. That's
Yeah.
great, man. Cool. Again, go to oxfordamerican.org/YHI.
Yep.
So why are you singing at me again?
Well, because you told me that today's episode is on voice leading, so I'll try to lead you with my voice. It was a little pun.
So you voice leading, voice leading. No, I don't know. I don't know what
I
you're.
don't know.
I'm not good at music, so I
We
wouldn't.
just lost 75% of our listeners.
As we should have.
Yeah, 25% are deaf. They stay with us.
No, we get asked this, and I was actually reading some interviews on Ethan Iverson's great blog. He had a great interview with Keith Jarrett, and they talked a little bit about voice leading and how they approach harmony. And I love voice leading and want to get better at it myself, like ingrained in my playing. But we've had some questions about this too, and I thought maybe we could just talk a little bit about some basic voice leading, some principles about moving notes, in a way that's not just plunking your hands down on certain voicings. Because as you often say, a voicing isn't good on its own.
Right.
It matters what happens before and after, and voice leading is a huge part of this.
Yeah, it's just like a word. Like, what's your favorite word?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's some cool words, but it's like, what are you going to do with them? Like, they're in the context of a sentence is where the magic of them happens. And we just want to remind folks that are part of a new piece of our shtick, as we like to call it here, because we're like, somebody mentioned that we're like the click and clack of remember them?
I am honored.
I am honored too. That was
Yeah.
nice. We got that in the YouTube comments of jazz.
That's my clack.
I always thought we were like the kind of, Borscht Belt of jazz advice. But anyway, as part of our shtick, at the very end of the episode, we're going to give you Peter and Adam's ultimate tip for voice leading. This was actually a real one. It was a little bit of a joke yesterday.
Yeah,
It
we
was
were kind of
fun.
kidding around.
We're
but
going to jump back and
we
forth.
do have.
We're going to change it up.
Yeah, we do have some.
Either
good
that or we're
advice.
going to forget. But we're going to do it today.
So our number one here for practicing voice leading, our number one way, I think this one is the way that you can easiest hear when it's bad voice leading or good voice leading, and that's playing with a bass line.
Yep.
Pick some changes, maybe a blues or maybe a standard that you love, comp with your right hand, and play a bass line with your left hand, because you're going to immediately be able to hear things that sound good or don't. Like, that's a good sounding bass line. Yeah, man. That's right.
Now, it's interesting because when you said bass line, I thought you were going to say that we're thinking about voice leading actually in the bass line, but you're talking about, that's another way, but you're talking about with actual still comping with actual chords.
Just so you can hear the chords, but I'm talking about listening for voice leading in the actual bass line.
Okay.
Because I do think that's an easy way to hear. Like, if
Yeah.
you're playing an F minor 7 chord, as part of a 2/5 with your right hand, and you play some bad voice leading in the bass line,
Yeah.
it's going to be pretty obvious. Like, if you play, an F, A, C, it's going to be weird.
Right.
Or even like F, G, D as part of that F minor. Like, it's not going to be
Yep.
a great
Yep.
way to go to B flat or wherever
Yeah.
you're going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is really the entry point if you want to think about, ways to really shed on your voice leading, is like starting here and building up. And, the whole idea of voice leading is like, how do we take the vertical and turn it into the horizontal.
Yeah.
From a conceptual standpoint. And a bass line is, by its very nature, a horizontal thing. It's moving. It's moving in time.
So let's do this exercise, and this is the easiest, most basic way to do it. Let's take a tune like All the Things You Are.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you do just the roots and add one note between each chord change, right? So you have the first chord is F minor 7 to B flat minor 7. Just pick one note that would lead to that B flat minor 7, and I think you'll hear what I'm talking about when I.
You mean like bass line?
Yeah, add one bass line note between those two roots.
Oh, got it.
Yeah,
So we're just bass line. Got it. So
exactly.
And some people may question that one when I got to the D flat major. I'm going to D minor.
Yeah.
So you might think repeat it, which you could do. And I know I took a leap, but I was thinking ahead. So I went down a perfect fourth and then down an augmented fourth. And then, because I know I'm coming up G and then 5-1.
I think it works. It works. But it's like, listen, you use your ears, because your ears are going to tell you what sounds good or not. Now, see if you can.
But it's not always. I just wanted people to know it's not always just the thing that's closest.
Yeah.
Or if you do it close, change it up then,
But you'll notice, though, that those half step leading upwards always sound pretty decent. So that's like kind of a rule that you can hear fairly easily.
And one thing I did on that, I think I started the F minor. Instead of doing a half step on the first one, I actually did the whole step.
Yeah.
And the reason I did that, because I was thinking I'd want to do it the next time, and I didn't want to, sometimes there's also like the chess thing of you're thinking a couple steps ahead.
Totally. Yeah. Surprise is part of this as well. Yeah. I wonder, Peter, if you can do that same section, but maybe intentionally try to do bad voice leading, so they could hear what not great voice leading sounds like.
I can tell you some things not to do.
Yeah. Let's hear it. Yeah.
I'm just playing some wrong notes too, though. Is that okay?
No, but that's bad voice leading. These are all parts of it. I think doing this exercise where you just have these changes, where you're adding one passing tone in between each change, is a great way of being able to hear very easily what sounds good and doesn't.
Yeah, and I think the goal of this, and you can certainly see this in isolation where you don't have 4-part harmony, 3-part, or bigger voicings that you're trying to voice lead in, is that you're trying to create a melody. Yeah. And so what I just did, not only were some of the notes wrong, even if I played correct notes within the chords, but jumping around, like, it's hard to have a melody. Like, there needs to be something than just a jumble of words.
Yes.
Even if they're good words.
And it's even in the bass line, actually, especially in the bass line.
Yeah.
It has to be melodic.
Yep. And so, like, if you think about things like kind of classic bass line, it's about thinking ahead and knowing that at that fourth bar you want to be back on the tonic.
Yeah.
This is just one way to do it. And so it's like, how do you get there? You could do, and that's okay, but I mean, if you were going to go, and nothing wrong with jumping around, but maybe if I go, and I've been jumping, now walk it down.
Yeah,
close.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. Just like with when you're soloing, you don't just do all arpeggios all the time or all scales up and down. You want to switch it up.
You know why? Because that's whack.
That's whack. So our second way to practice voice leading is to practice the leading line of your voicing. This is for pianists, but for arrangers too. So in other words, getting comfortable enough with voicings and inversions. Sorry, I got to move all sorts of stuff around.
Oh, that's why
you made me tape that. All right, you're doing it, buddy. You're doing it.
Okay.
That's
what I was like, why is he worried about the slack on this? Okay, sorry.
So,
the pod cave is small. Let's talk about that.
It's not a big room.
It seems like it's a big room. We're in a big room. It's kind of odd that it's such a small.
For our listeners, we tried to get the cables together because we're on YouTube as well, and now
cable management.
I'm not able to access the key station, which I'm super upset about. No, you got it. So what I was talking about with this lead line of the voicing is that top note of the voicing almost becomes a de facto melody, even when you're comping for someone else, and you want to be aware of that. So
it's the most important one to really make melodic, I think.
So let's hear it when you don't have good voice leading of that top line.
Okay.
When you're jumping all over the place. Yeah. I mean,
it wasn't that bad. Well,
this is like to
Yeah.
your point. Each one individually sounds
Yep.
just fine. All right, now play it with voice leading as a consideration. Nice little melodic ideas.
Yeah, and I didn't even do any jumps, so it was almost more of a challenge to make it interesting. Because I kind of kept it close.
Yeah. And this is a very important way to practice voice leading. And I think it's really good, too, to expose some of the deficiencies you might have in your voicings.
Yeah.
If you can't voice within a reasonable amount of real estate from
Yeah.
your last melody, you probably are missing some kind of inversion or voicing that you need to get.
Yeah, and in this kind of situation where, as to your point you mentioned earlier, that when you're comping behind someone, like, this is very important, the top note, because if there is any kind of hearing of a melody and attention to voicing, it's going to be that top note.
Oh, yeah. And if you're accompanying a singer, this is crucial, the skill to
Right.
have, because you can really help them hear, I mean, a good singer's going to be able to hear anything, but
Yeah.
if you're clashing with them, it gets really hard for them,
Right.
you know.
All right, next we
hear.
have sorry. Are you done with that part?
Yeah.
Can we move on now?
I'm all done.
Okay, good. Voice leading is like a good friendship. You gotta know when to push things forward.
I was definitely clashing there. Sorry.
All right, number 3, we have inner movement.
Inner movement, right? So this is kind of next level voice leading. This is when you really start to take it to, we're on the path to each voice we place has a way to go, has a pathway.
Yes.
And a way to practice this is with some little inner movements.
Okay.
So just like we were talking the other day about being in a minor tonality, that walk down from the root to the major 7 to the dominant 7 to the 6 on a minor 6 chord
Yeah.
is one example of some little inner voice movement to take you, like let's say we're doing...
Like that kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, those little motions where you know what your next voicing is going to be, and so you
Yep.
can kind of put a little bit of voice leading in between. It's no different than the top line of the melody of the comping
Yep.
or a bass line. The
Yeah.
same kind of relationships apply. I think.
Yeah, and I think a good way to practice this is kind of like what I was just doing, where you keep the top note and you sort of rhythmically add that movement only into that middle voice. And I started with just 3: bass note, top note, and middle.
Yeah.
And then you can expand it out to more.
Can you try
notes.
that again one more time?
Yeah. That was bad. That was an example of what not to play.
Yeah.
And the thing to listen for, especially as you kind of improvise as you're, not improvise as in a solo, but you're not playing something that's written out, or when you're trying to do this on the fly, is listen to where that middle line as a melody starts to lead. Because if you're doing this right, you should have some choices at the beginning, but then every decision you make almost like gives you less choices. It's that whatever the opposite of exponentially increasing, it's exponentially decreasing, almost to the point of like when I think I ended. Like that pretty much, like the top note can go up, but that needs to be down.
It has to resolve.
You gotta go there. Come
it's
on,
the
man.
same thing.
Come on,
I
man.
cringe. I recorded this record, my very first record I recorded on guitar, and I have this one moment I still think about this to this day, because I had it was a 5-1, and the 7th didn't resolve to the 3rd. And I
Come
was
on,
like,
Adam.
I know. I can't listen to that
That's
record.
what punching is for.
I know. Well, I didn't even hear it. I was so
Yeah.
young. Anyway, so number 4, this is to get a counterpoint or a voice leading resource and go through some exercises. We've talked about this before, but I just want to reiterate that a great book that I've used to help me understand the basic rules of voice leading and counterpoint is The Study of Counterpoint from Johann Josef Fuchs's Gradus ad Parnassum. And it's a classic.
That's what we call a fussy title.
Well, but it's like a super old book.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the book that Haydn used, that Beethoven used,
Whoa.
that Mozart had an annotated copy apparently. So you're going to sound like that era, that Haydn era. I mean, you're not going to sound like Haydn, but you're going to sound like that era of voice leading. But it's a great way to kind of, it's such a cleanly written book with cleanly written exercises, and really starts you off simply and builds. And so I highly recommend that you take a look at that. The Study of Counterpoint by Fuchs. That's F-U-X.
That's right.
Be careful when you tell your mom
that's
you
right.
want that.
That's right. And wait till the very end of the episode for our ultimate tip, which I'm actually really excited about because this is good. But I mean, all these I think were good. The 4. Let's just review real quick. We had first, and this is our 4 ways to practice voice leading, was bass lines.
Yep.
Starting on the bottom, working your way up, really paying attention to that melodic movement and the harmonic implications of the shape of your bass line.
Yep.
And then we had the lead line in the voicing, which is typically going to be the top note of your voicings. Again, starting simply and building up, two notes, root shell kind of situation. Then we had inner movement.
Yeah.
And number 4 was counterpoint. Get yourself a good counterpoint. Another one I think I did was, the Walter Piston harmony book.
You've talked about this one before. Yeah. I haven't checked that out yet. I got to check that out.
I mean, I think they're all good. They all kind of come from different places, but it's the kind of thing, like, rules are rules. And yeah, you can break them, and they do, and the masters broke them. Charlie Parker, J.S. Bach, whatever. But you got to be able to hear it first.
It's honestly very helpful to know these classic rules, to know the standard. All right, so before we get into our ultimate tip, don't forget to go to oxfordamerican.org/YHI, where you can save big-time money on a subscription to the brilliant Oxford American. It's $25 for a full year. It's a quarterly magazine. That means that the quality is of the utmost importance. The photography, the poetry, the prose, the journalism.
The quality is of the utmost, not because it's a quarterly. It could be bad. The quality is good because it's Oxford
Not every
American.
quarterly is great.
But it's so good that you savor it even more when it comes quarterly.
It's awesome.
Yep.
It's awesome. So again, that's oxfordamerican.org/YHI.
And we want to encourage folks, we're on a little bit of a rant, a little bit of a crusade for, not an ugly kind of crusade where you go kill people and take over lands, just a friendly crusade, to get people to send us a speak pipe.
Yeah, don't let Zoom from Vancouver.
That's right. Zoom wants to be joined by you guys.
He does. Zoom has great questions, and we want more of those kind of things. So go to you'llhearit.com to the contact page and send us a speak pipe, a voicemail.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you might get featured on a future episode.
That's right.
Okay, so now are we ready for it? This is Peter and Adam's ultimate tip for voice leading.
So my ultimate tip is to grab a hymnal.
Yes.
If you're near a church, they'll likely give you a hymnal, but I acquired somehow a Lutheran hymnal years and years ago.
Yep.
And playing through those hymns is such good exercise in voice. I mean, the Lutherans, that's Bach right there. They're serious about their hymns, and they're serious about their voice leading. So you can get some editions that have some really great voice leading, 4-part, 5-part voice leading.
And if you live in a part of the country or the world that there is no Lutheran church, i.e. anywhere but the upper Midwest, Lutheran, it's funny because I learned off of a Methodist hymnal.
Yeah.
Which is great too. I think that there's
Lutheran
and then there's
Light.
the Bach chorales. Yeah, Lutheran Light. Relax Lutherans. Sit in Lutherans.
Well, it's ironic. I grew up Methodist, but I somehow got this Lutheran hymnal.
Right.
So.
I grew up vegetarian actually. No, that's not different. No, so yeah, and then another little tip I'll add in there is just playing them teaches you voice leading. If you want to go next level, play them and then omit the part that your voice is at. So like I'm a tenor, almost like a bass. I could kind of do either one. Yeah. But if you're alto soprano, just omit that note and try to sing that part.
Such a great exercise.
And that'll whip your ears into shape.
All right, what's your ultimate tip?
That was. You're not listening, bro.
Oh.
No, we did
that
together.
Good tip, buddy. Obviously impactful.
No, I went next level. I said you take it and you're leaving out the note to sing.
Oh, you're singing it. Okay, got it.
Remember you said, that was good.
Okay, well, I'll hear it.
You'll hear it.
Sorry, I was waiting
What's
for
your tip?
First
of all, you stole my damn tip. I came up with it anyway. And you stole it and turned it Lutheran, and then
I thought it was Bach chorales.
I said that too. I said,